This section, I want to talk about design sequence and what needs to be done there. I will give the example of villa design, let's say, okay? I think it will be the easiest one because it will involve architectural design, interior design, MEP design, structural design, low voltage, landscape and pool. Now, as we start design, and when the demand comes, we do the design brief and then space requirements and the space matrix. When we do this space programming with the client, we come up actually with something that we can, we know that it will evolve and it will change, but it will be, this is the core of what we have. So the core starts with architectural space planning, honestly. If you have the architectural space requirements and the program, then the rest becomes the massing and the probably massing the architectural space program in the context that you want, with the relation, with the outside, etc. Now, when the design brief is finalized, is agreed upon, and the massing and the planning is final, then a lot of course, when you're doing this one, you have structural engineering already on board. You have to think about the basics of the MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, with storage tanks, where the AC system will be, what will be the system for the cooling, where is the main machinery will be there. If you have a pool, you have to think about the pool pump locations. If there is any special additional things which is coming more common, like, you know, the solar photovoltaic panels, probably water tanks, so on and so forth. So so what we start with architecture. In the architectural design, we have to think about these mechanical, electrical things, and then the best thing for this one is to ask questions to your solution partners. Now, in CK Architecture Interiors, especially in Dubai and in Turkey right now, we have some solution partners that we can just knock their doors and ask the questions to them. What would you, for example, you get a project and you have 1,000 square meter built-up area, no garage, no basements, just G+1. Now, when you start doing your sketches, you should always think about where's my MEP rooms will be, how big will be they are. I have to start kind of working on a structural grid system. I need to select my structural system so that I can actually start using the grid there, so that I can, you cannot finalize everything in one shot, obviously, but you can kind of plan for it in the beginning, at least put the possibilities might be there, because if you just be so stiff in the beginning, then you will not be able to change later on. So you should go, you should just kind of funnel it, you know. So as a priority, structure supersedes, but with structure then comes MEP, and sometimes interior design. So that's why the involvement of the disciplines, interior design, lighting design, landscape design is quite important, even sometimes acoustic design. But I think this also could be kind of developed in the later stage, in schematic design, or you call it design development stage, with other disciplines also. But if I have to put in a sequence, I would probably go city planning, putting aside, architectural, structural, MEP in different levels. It will come, obviously, interior design, low voltage, probably pool design and landscape all together. You have to, the earlier they get, I'm sorry, there's one thing I missed out. It's very, of course, important, and I think it's going to be even more important now, is the green building. Is there any problem?
Yeah, memory card is getting full.
No problem, we're finishing now. So this is the, basically, you need to involve the green building. So the last part that I mentioned was the sequence of design disciplines when you design the after basically the main information comes with architecture, and architectural information feeds the other disciplines, and the other disciplines feeds the architecture back, and they kind of collaborate, and then they become something working better in terms of this three dimensions we mentioned in architectural overall design: the durability and function, and structure, function, and the aesthetics, which are the kind of reduced three dimensions that covers most of the things that as we know it in the book sense. Now, from a more practical perspective, I want to explain the same things, how they are implemented in construction as far as I know, and I think the staff of CK Architecture Interiors should know that for sure. Everything, of course, in the first one we didn't talk about too much of the zoning and regulations that comes from the authorities wherever you are in any part of the world. There's rules and regulations. We are considering that they have been applied on design. So once we have the construction drawings on site and necessary resources, the sequence goes like this. I'm going to start with a basement villa this time. So we do a mobilization. We bring our men, equipment, material. We start first with an excavation. Of course, I'm talking in an ideal world where we have the equipment, health and safety, all those kinds of things has been already kind of agreed upon and implemented in a professional way. We do excavation. Now, for the excavation, you need to make sure that there is no water table that is higher than your lowest excavation level. If there is, then you have to have shoring and dewatering you have to do. If you have that problem, in any case, I would suggest you to use a concrete waterproofing system where you crystallize the concrete with a special chemical. Now, excavation you do, if there is, as I told you, shoring, then excavation, then dewatering, then you do your thermite control sheet, plastic sheet, PCC, and then you do your steel work and shuttering and concrete works for the foundation, the retaining walls, the core, the columns, the slabs, columns, slabs, columns, slabs. You finish your core, whether it is steel or concrete, it's more or less the same thing. With different methodologies you can do. Meanwhile, I prefer to do everything quickly and do the coordination later on necessarily. Don't wait for this one, but in certain cases, due to the precisions required or other things, it might be done during the construction. The first fix of MEPs could be there in terms of conduiting and drainage. Could be done in a later stage also. So you add conduits and for sockets and switches, other requirements in the facade, and you embed them in the concrete as per the. But for this one, you have to have the interior design also coordinated. So it's kind of a challenging thing to do that one. Once you have those things, you can start your facade with your framing and your wall finishes on the outside, with parallel inside your first and second fix of MEP, where you fix your main machinery, ducting, and then conduiting. Probably you can also do you can also do water supply and drainage system and connect them all. I think since the drainage goes with gravity, is one of the key factors that you need to do before everything, because that's has to be done and also has to be controlled, and should be controlled with the main members of the structure, the ducts and its slope, the drainage slope. Once these while these things are going, and if you finish in the low level on the ground floor your conduiting, you can put your screeding and keep your, you can do the plastering after you have clearance for the walls, and then you can do your screeding on top once you get the clearance from MEP on this one. Before the screeding, of course, you have to prepare the place for waterproofing in the wet areas. And the waterproofing, I always we sometimes discuss, should we do a second waterproofing after the screeding? We sometimes avoid it because we have the weeping flanges in the structural slab where we do the waterproofing there and lock the waterproofing on the weeping flanges. So once we have the waterproofing testing is done, minimum 48 hours, we do the screeding. We never, by the way, propose or recommend semi-dry mix fixing. Always we want to fix screeding and marble or ceramic directly glued on top or whatever the finish is. So once that's there, the correct thing for internal finishes is finishing the flooring first, then the walls, then you close the ceiling. Of course, this kind of may jeopardize the sequence of many other works, because if you close the ceiling at this stage, how you're going to be doing the dirty work of the plastering and sanding and the painting of the gypsum ceilings. Usually the gypsum ceilings are gypsum, but it might be metal, of course, also. I'm talking about the traditional way. So while you are when you reach to a level that you finish high level MEP works, you get a clearance and you do your suspensions in between. Once you have the final clearance for that one, you do the boarding and you close your ceilings. Once you close the ceilings, you cut them out. Meanwhile, your walls are almost ready, your floors are almost ready to receive the final finishes. Once you do the final finishes on the sequence that I just tell you, whether you can also close the ceiling and then do your walls. First floor and then close ceiling, and then you can do your walls. And then later on you can go for your fixed furniture like doors, kitchens and wardrobes after everything is cleaned up. But joinery should be the latest thing. Meanwhile, you can do the final coat of painting, and the wallpaper work should be the last thing that you will do. And after the first coat paint, I suggest you do the final fix of all lighting and AC works, and then after you finish all of them, you'll do a final coat to clean out everything. And after that one, probably you are ready to do the test and commissioning for the mechanical electric works. It could be done actually right before the second final painting, because there might be some problems here and there. In each stage that I mentioned you have to go for a WIR and make sure that your subcontractor or the company in charge raise a third-party work inspection request to control all this process.